Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse, only on Netflix.
We just had Simon Gawthron on. Awesome podcast.
I was losing my mind behind the desk.
Yeah, and I think so. This is some not so tactical product placement, but obviously we spoke a lot about his minerals. But I was so excited to start the podcast about we're talking about these and trying these coffees grown in Denmark because I just found it so fascinating because I tried this Danish grown geisha a few years ago that Rasmus had grown. I thought it was one of the best coffees that I've had, to be honest. And it's like, well, some people would probably detest it in the coffee industry because, some people would probably think of it as synthetic, but this guy's just like a coffee professional that is an agronomist by trade and, going out and done this. I think it's fantastic.
I agree. I think all that I've learned is from kind of from the other pods that I struggle with enjoying or setting my expectations really high because it's so varied. You get a different coffee everywhere. And this kind of is kind of in my mind a bit of a fix-all. This is the seasoning of the water. It's a game changer. This is like, this is incredible.
Yeah, and I've known Simon for a couple of years and I've introduced him a couple of times on this topic and he's kind of inserted himself as an authority on water in the coffee industry. Something we didn't mention in the podcast that I'm surprised we didn't is that there was actually a book written by Dr. Christopher Hendon, who's a coffee researcher now at the University of Oregon, and a guy in England called Maxwell Colonna Dashwood. And they wrote this really interesting book. I think it was really hard to dissect for a lot of people. And so, if you had read that book as a coffee professional and you were trying to sort of make your own way, making minerals for coffee, you might have found it quite hard. Enter this product, it's kind of like, now you can make it easy for people. You don't necessarily have to have the chemistry knowledge.
No, it's so easy, so easy. And I think I kind of want to just harp on the fact that I really was I didn't come into it with skeptical, I wouldn't say. I didn't really have any expectation and it just kind of rocked me.
Yeah, you and Harry.
Me and Harry, one of the boys who, part of the editing crew here, we got to try firsthand, before, after, try this one, that one. And it's...
So let me ask you tried the coffee, the Danish coffees, pre-mineral and post-mineral edition.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the biggest takeaway? You're not someone that works day in, day out with coffee. You work here, but you're not making coffee every day. What was the biggest thing you noticed?
Well, I think each one you can connect it to a different type of kind of language. For me, I'm with music. I'm doing I'm working with sound, and it was like EQing the flavors. It didn't necessarily give me a completely different experience, but it's it just brought the character out in a different way, just like a filter on a photo does. You can highlight someone's beautiful teeth, or you can highlight, a black and white photo versus, a highly saturated photo is a different thing, and they can be kind of a play on how everything goes. And it was actually really shocking. And I really we were just talking about it before. Japanese food and the Japanese experience of a bento where you get a little bit of everything. And if I can go to a winery, the first thing I'm getting is a flight. Or if I go anywhere in the world, if I go to a bar, if I can get a spread of an experience, that's my go-to. And that's exactly what I think I'd want to do. I'd want a spread of these minerals,
My biggest positive about all of this, and which is also my biggest negative, is that when we make a development in coffee, people often see it as a wanky thing because coffee, for whatever reason, coffee is supposed to be this average product to a lot of people. But, when we make a development like this, it's actually pretty significant in our industry. A lot of people think, oh, fucking wankers, you're doing these wanker coffee things. You hold your espresso cup like this. No. Which is kind of the worst thing and also the best thing because, we are making these critical developments. And unfortunately, coffee is just one of those industries where people pick on it. But, and for whatever reason.
Well, I was just going to say I think there's like, it feels a little bit unattainable. Like to get a good coffee, I think for a lot of people, and like I was part of this crew where you could only get a good coffee if you left your home, because there's, you know, people that have invested in these businesses with incredible machines that can put out output, and it just seems unattainable. It's this like mystery kind of place.
I guess that's that going into that is the amount of variables it takes to make a good cup of coffie.
100%.
And it is so much, for those at home, it is so much harder to make a good espresso than it is a good filter. You know, if you because not only do you have to have the skill set, it needs to be quite precise, you need to have good equipment, but also like there's things that could just potentially go wrong. If you're carrying a portafilter with the espresso puck in, you just knock it, then you could have a crack, your coffee will channel. A lot of you people at home would say that tastes burnt. You know, the numbers are against you when you're making espresso. But to add further to that, when we do the strength readings of coffee, filters like 1.3 to 1.4%, espresso could be anywhere between 7 and 5. If it's stronger, then you're going to taste the deficiency more strongly. And so filter coffee, and I guess this is what's so interesting about Simon's extra hot take with 2 sugars. It's just harder by a matter of sheer numeracy to get a good espresso coffee or milk coffee than it is for a filter coffee. Mind you, a fraction of the effort in Australia particularly is applied to making a good filter coffee. If you go to anywhere in Sweden or like in some of those Scandinavian countries or in America they've got diner style coffee. In Sweden they call it brew cafe. I've been to Sweden.
I can tell. Can you say that one more time?
Brew cafe. Brew cafe. But it's, you know, Australia's got this really interesting coffee culture where it's espresso dominated, whether that's like a long black or an espresso or a milk coffee. I found that extra hot take really interesting. And you know, if more cafes did put more effort into making good filter coffee, we'd probably be better off as an industry.
Hold on, just to reiterate for those that are just listening to this the first time, the hot take was that milk is going out, right? That's what you're getting at?
I guess. I think Simon's specific words are milk and alternative milks are killing the coffee industry. Now that's an extra hot take with 2 sugars.
Specifically, yeah.
When we made this segment, it was like that's the textbook hot take.
I think that's the hottest take we've had.
It probably is.
I think it is.
But
I think it is.
But you know, like, and you know, I agree with him. I also disagree with him. You know, like I think milk will always have a certain level of popularity, and you know, but it will wane. You know, because like just, you know, carting these things across one of my biggest issues with the milk industry is that, like, you know, obviously it expires. There's a level of waste with it. There's the, you know, the impact on the planet, I think. And then, you know, same goes for alternative milk. It doesn't necessarily expire, but it's packaged in a way where, you know, I've said this on the podcast before, it comes in 1 liter packs, and it's like, why not make it 2? I don't know whether that means there's less packaging or materials going into making it, but like, it's so hard for cafes. Like, you got to, like, in practice as well, when you're doing service, you got to remove the caps, and it's just a shit fight sometimes. It should come in bigger portions for cafes. I mean, like it should
be like goon bags.
Yeah.
Cask wine.
Yeah, cask
wine milk.
But like let's take a product like ice cream. You know, if you're buying ice cream for home, it comes in like a 1 liter pack. But if it's for commercial use, it's more likely a 10, 15 or 20 liter sort of volume. You know, why don't we do that for alternative milks? And, you know, I've got some good friends that work in the industry, and, you know, in the alternative milk side of it and stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, I need to be honest here and just and say publicly that I think they should be making bigger vessels with that. And that's following on from Simon's hot take.
No, absolutely. I think it's spicy because, like, Melbourne's known for a flat white, a latte. That's our, like, connection to coffee here, especially here in Melbourne, Australia. And that's from someone who now doesn't drink milk-based coffees. So it's like, and I don't know, it just seemed to echo something that I think I've been thinking, because it's almost like it's harder. That's part of it, right? Like today's podcast, you're talking about how, like, we're talking to the water boy, right? And like 95% of your coffee is water. So, like, why don't we focus more on how that works? And I think here in Melbourne, it's like, for us, coffee is the tiny bit and the biggest part is the milk. So when you get a good barista who can, prepare the milk to a texture that's beautiful to the temperature, that's what you notice more over like a flavor profile or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I love the coffee part. And you know what I mean? And
I guess if you're teaching a barista to make filter, or if you're teaching them to make an espresso, or a milk coffee, the skill set is more expensive to teach for espresso. The equipment that you need to make a good espresso is more expensive.
Yes.
Where, you can get a portable filter kit and make an excellent filter in, I don't know, the Himalayas, and you take it with you. You'll get good results.
Yeah.
So I mean,
the skill set for like being able to like visually look at when milk is properly steamed and what you can feel in a jug, and putting that on like an industrial level of like, professional barista is like, it's a bit of a like vague, like I'll teach you by showing, and you need to like just watch someone who's incredible at it. And so the art is on you to learn and watch and absorb. Whereas on the other side of things, it's the art with like filter. With the filter side of things, the art is on the person the roaster and where it comes from. And I don't know, there's again, bring it back to the minerals. We're able to kind of, just heighten it and focus it.
To summarize that point, with wine, for example, like, you can get a good bottle of wine, and provided you keep it in pretty good storage conditions and whatnot, all you have to do is open it, aerate it a little bit, and that's your product. With coffee, it's like so much more down to people's skills, how it's roasted, how it's stored, yada, 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 which is infinitely more difficult. But I'm excited to see the application. Like, one of the things that excites me about what Simon's done here is that, like we talk about coffee, but I'm excited to see where it's applied to other sort of things, because where it applies to what we do. We work in coffee a lot. You're part of the golden brown coffee sort of thing, and I'm really sad Rohan's not here, because I reckon it would have been awesome for him to see
Rohan would
this.
be all around this.
Bro would. And I think we should arrange for Rohan and Simon to sort of do some work together, video wise and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like, what he was saying about tea and beer and whiskey and
oh my goodness.
And it's just not something I really thought of before.
Either.
But
I love that you asked that question. Like, where else is this applied? Like we only talk about coffee, and it's like, where isn't it applied?
I guess another thing, while I've got the thought in my brain, one thing that really impresses me about Simon, he's so organized and he's so driven, and so he works so hard. And we were having a conversation just last night about how, like, we're both just like, we're doing these things. You've got a regular thing that you need to do during the day, and then the work doesn't really stop at night. And some weeks you're just like, and I like having those questions about what people's schedules are, because I think that's something people in general struggle with on day to day in this modern era of smartphones and all that sort of thing. Me in particular, but also like e-commerce businesses and how anyone could start one. And if you're passionate about something, then just do it, and you'll have some level of success. But
I think that's like a part of our audience, right? It's like a lot of people get connected to coffee not because of the flavor profile and everything. It's like, this will help you focus, this will help you work, this will help you deal with stress, even though it's one of probably the main things that stresses you out.
I'm excited to also learn what cards are in those booster packs, and when they get open, what Pokemon cards are in those booster packs.
Yeah, we asked Simon today about, Kirk had the inside scoop that he's been collecting Pokemon cards since he was 6 years old, and he's got some first editions. That blew my mind.
Can you imagine finding it? Like, the Charizard card was rare enough to find on its own. Can you imagine finding one in a deck? Like, you open up, you got like a shiny Charizard. It's like, whoa, I had a Venusaur, and oh man, I wish I was forward thinking enough to preserve it. If I had a time machine, I could go back to Christmas 1999 when my brothers and I all got, like big packs of Pokemon cards. Is that the booster pack, or is that the, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I got like the big, we had like the big deck. There was like two.
A full deck.
Yeah, so you get like two different sizes. And anyway, if I could go back in time, I would probably have some, I could have sold those off for a house or something by now.
I feel like I just like handballed them to my younger brother. I definitely collected them, and I made like a whole...
Has your brother still got a...
I'm sure they're somewhere. Okay. I'm sure they're somewhere. They better be.
Yeah. No.
Should probably have another look at that.
Yeah.
Anyway, to bring it back, it runs in the family. He runs with his partner, right?
So his partner's involved in...
I love that as well.
So, that's... So she plays a role. He obviously works. I think she's got another day job as well, yoga involved in yoga.
What a power couple.
But I mean, that just about wraps it up for Coffee Break. We've been going for 15 minutes all through my coffee break time.
Yeah, this has been another episode of Coffee Break. Please get in contact with us at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. This is going to be coming out every week, and let us know how we're going. Ro is away, and so we're holding the fort. That's why you're seeing my mug next to the Kirky over here. But thanks for listening again. This has been Coffee Break.
This has been Coffee Break, and thanks again, producer Liam. Nice one.
You.